So, being an artist on the internet is fun, huh? It's super great how artists are prone to being bullied in their own comment sections, and the normalization of everyone jumping on a hate train to harass them until they leave the platform. Totally awesome how so many artists go viral just because people are making fun of their art. This has always been something that has made me really frustrated and angry because it's so common, and I've made videos before talking about how awful it is. But seeing that level of hate outpoured towards your own work is something else. And unfortunately, that is what happened to me over on Instagram. I genuinely never expected that extent of hate from such a harmless video, but that's what happened. So I just want to talk about that whole incident and all the issues surrounding it because experiencing that in real time was genuinely insane. So it all started when all I did was literally just post a video of my art improvement. It was just a trend that was going around, people posting their art from the beginning of 2020 to now, 2024. While I admit that maybe I didn't pick a super great example of my improvement, I thought it would just be a silly throwaway video and that it would be obvious that my art style has changed and improved. All I wanted to do was to compare how I drew myself in 2020 versus how I draw myself now. That was it. That was the extent of the video. If I really wanted to show overall improvement, I would have picked two drastically different art pieces to make it more apparent. But for some reason people took that video as the initiative to bully and harass me for several days on end. And when I say I got flooded with hate comments, I mean flooded. Literally hundreds upon hundreds of them. That video obviously did not reach the audience I intended it to, and instead came upon all of the trolls and brain-rotted internet losers that have no lives. But I am nothing if not stubborn, so I just kept deleting and blocking people as I came across those comments because I was not going to let myself be bullied off of my own art account that I've had for years. At first, it wasn't very many people leaving mean comments, and I would just check the video every now and then and block them. But when the video shot up to 500,000 views in the span of like 1 to 2 days, it got to the point where I had to turn on the limit interactions function. If you don't know what that is, it just makes it to where you have to approve every single comment that you get, so the comments won't appear on the post unless you approve them. I was starting to get really annoyed at that point, obviously, because it got super old super quick. All of it was just the same variation of your art got worse, art bad, whatever. I'm just gonna block you and move on. But then of course, when people started to catch on to the fact that I was deleting their hateful comments, then they started to harass me for that too. Because obviously, when you're put into the situation, there's literally no winning. If you leave the comments up, it just invites more of them and starts a bunch of arguments, and if you delete them, you just can't take criticism. Imagine an artist getting harassed. Like blatant harassment and bullying. Not constructive criticism, not art advice, nothing within the realm of helpful at all. Literally just bullying. And then proceeding to try and bully them for deleting those comments. Because that's what happened to me. And maybe I should have just turned the comments off at that point or stopped looking at them, but I just didn't want to feel like I let them win. And honestly, I started to have the time of my life deleting and blocking people that were saying stuff like that because I know it probably made them mad, and it felt good to turn it back around on them like that without even having to reply. Like, obviously, if your goal is to just be a jerk and insult people because you think it's funny, the best thing to do is literally just ignore you and not let anyone else see your comment. So that's what I did. But obviously, the whole situation was just so ridiculous. Like, first they say your art is bad, then when you delete the comments, they try and make fun of you for that. It's just like, oh, I'm so sorry. Forgive me for not letting a bunch of basement-dwelling weasels spread hate in my comment section. You're obviously not used to people having boundaries, are you? Going out of your way to cyberbully an artist who had the misfortune of coming across your For You page says a lot more about you than it does about me. I feel really sorry for you if the first instinct you have when you see someone else having fun is to project your own misery and insecurities onto them. And truly, for the most part, everything that people were saying really did not affect me at all, or at least not in the way they intended it to. I'm used to people making digs about my art or just saying dumb, copy and paste, unoriginal comments. Telling me to stop drawing and that my art sucks, like, you're not gonna make me insecure about that, bud. But then, of course, I started getting people who took it to a whole new extreme. Instead of just simple hate comments bashing me for my art, I started getting some that were calling me slurs, being transphobic and homophobic, just fun little things like that. And then something that really takes the cake. Someone saying that they hope I would get essayed. All because I posted a harmless video of my artwork. I don't care what your awful hot take opinion of my art is. I truly don't. If you don't like it and you tell me that you don't like it, I literally do not care. Especially if it's obviously some sort of rage bait to upset me. Like, you're gonna get 2 seconds of acknowledgement and then you're blocked. But comments calling me slurs and wishing horrible things to happen to me are completely out of their minds and extremely disgusting. Like, most of the comments on that video were just an inconvenience and annoying for me to have to go through and delete, and that's it. You saying my art sucks doesn't bother me, because whatever, you're obviously not my target audience, but everything after that? Incredibly, unfathomably disgusting. It's crazy to me that Instagram allows these comments to be made on your posts in the first place, and then on top of that, when you report them, as I did multiple times, nothing is done about it either. And I'm just so sick of this happening to artists in general. People will bully you for literally anything at this point, and I've experienced it firsthand. It's relatively easy to ignore some people saying that my art is bad and making fun of me for that, like whatever, I don't really care. But it just gets to a ridiculous point because all of that blew way out of proportion from me literally just showing a picture of my art. I can ignore that stuff and block people, but the problem is that I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to put up with that to begin with. And especially after that video went through several phases where the views and comments would die down only to start getting a ton of attention again, it just got to the point where I was sick of seeing it. And overall, I'm sick of this disgusting behavior being completely normalized, and then everyone makes fun of you further if you try and speak up about it. So that's kind of the risk I'm taking with this video. I know talking about this experience is probably just going to attract even more pathetic losers to try and leave some hate comments, but I'm doing it anyway because this is not okay. Like I said, leaving comments telling me to stop drawing is not going to make me stop drawing. Like, that's absurd, and I'm not going to give you what you want. But what I have a problem with specifically is the sheer volume of comments like that. It wasn't just one or two, it was literally almost the entire comment section. And it continued to happen for over a week before I finally just gave in and privated my account for a few days to stop it. That video went viral pretty much because people hated my art for no reason. Ganging up on and harassing artists with the sole intent of bullying them off of the platform is absolutely vile, and I refuse to let anyone do that to me. It's crazy how many people left comments like that instead of literally just scrolling past the video. If you hate my art so much, why are you interacting with it and giving it more engagement? If you think it's just so disgusting and horrible, why don't you do me a favor and block me first so I don't have to deal with you? Then everyone wins. There's just some sort of strange attitude for some reason that if someone is receiving a lot of hate, no matter what the reason is, then that means that they deserve it simply because it's happening, which is obviously not true. And all it does is make the video go more viral and cause more people to dogpile onto someone and harass them because of some mob mentality of hatred. And while I obviously tried my best to not let any of these comments upset me, honestly, the most frustrating ones, aside from the worst of the worst I mentioned earlier, were people telling me to not delete criticism. Like, one commenter said to stop deleting criticism because everyone is genuinely trying to help me improve. And there's a lot to unpack with that statement. I know I already covered all of this in my toxic art community video, but I personally think that unsolicited criticism and art advice is not helpful if the artist did not ask. This is a hugely controversial thing in the art community, and everyone has different opinions on it, which is fine, but it just really irritates me when even the people trying to give friendly advice don't stop to think if you want it in the first place. I am just a hobby artist. I'm not a professional, I'm not sitting in a college art class in a circle asking for critiques. And yeah, free speech, blah blah blah, but everyone who makes the argument that they can say whatever they want always whines about the consequences of their actions later on. Whether that be someone getting mad at them for what they said or just deleting a comment that they made. It's always about the removal of accountability, and well, if you're upset at something I said, it's your own fault, and you deserve to be treated terribly. And again, let me reiterate, most of the criticism on that video was extremely rude and unhelpful. It's crazy to me to assume that everybody has good intentions when a lot of people just want to be able to say the harshest, most overwhelmingly negative things that they can about your work without being held accountable because, oh, I'm just trying to help you. You're not seeing the comments I've been deleting, so how can you say those people were trying to be helpful? It's not a crime to delete criticism if it's rude or the advice is just not good. Like, just so many people were telling me to just draw X, Y, and Z differently, and that I need to do art studies and practice drawing realism. In other words, completely change your art style to please everyone else, because realism is the only thing that looks good. And so, I think it's pretty ridiculous to get mad at an artist for not wanting advice that they did not ask for. And who are you to be giving criticism? Are you an artist too? Is your advice of any value? Why should I listen to you and not just continue to draw and mind my own business like I've been doing? Again, every single artist is different and has their own boundaries when it comes to unsolicited criticism. Some people are fine with it and some people are not. The least you can do is ask. If you genuinely wanted to help someone, then you would respect their boundaries and not get angry if they delete comments, especially on a video where they're already getting absolutely decimated with hate comments. I'm not going to be more receptive to criticism when I'm already getting torn apart for what my art looks like. Most of those people were just trying to take something that I was proud of and make me ashamed of it. There's nothing constructive about that. There were so many other people too in that same vein going off on like a paragraph long rant in my comments about how awful my art is and saying that deleting all the critical comments will never help me improve. And it's just like, by the way you're being horribly rude to me, you don't care about me improving. You just want to be mean because everyone else is being mean. It's just another hate comment with slightly more thought to it aside from just art bad. You know what else doesn't help artists improve? Mercilessly bullying them. And you know what does help them improve? Getting encouragement to keep making things, and in doing so, learning from past mistakes and getting better by default. If you actually cared about me improving, you would present your criticisms in a kind manner and not just insult my work. What makes you think that being unnecessarily cruel to an artist will make them listen to you? At some point, all of these criticisms just become harassment under the guise of helping. And yes, I do completely understand that some people are trying to help. Receiving criticism doesn't automatically make it an attack on your art, but it also doesn't make you obligated to listen to it. For example, no hate to this commenter because they presented their criticism in a nice way, which I really appreciated. They said, "Your art is so good, my only recommendation is that the hair is too flat and it looks like they have no skull." Now, going back to the piece they were criticizing, which so happens to be the little PNG tuber I use in my videos, I honestly don't really see what they're talking about at all. I think it looks fine. So in turn, I don't have to listen to that criticism, and that doesn't make me a terrible artist. On the other hand, it's people like this who give criticism and expect artists to listen to them just because it's criticism, and if you ignore it, then it proves that you're a bad artist. My criticism is draw something other than LGBT stuff and use more diverse references. Aside from the obvious sprinkle of homophobia in this comment, they obviously did not take the time to look at anything else I've ever drawn. Use more diverse references. I never thought of that. Super great advice. And the last winning piece of that comment, telling me that deleting this comment means that I deserve every single ounce of hate that I got. So let's just take a moment to wrap our heads around how insane that is. This is also the type of criticism that I'm being told I have to listen to or I'll never improve. And that's precisely why I ignore those comments. I didn't ask you, and most of the time said criticism is laughably absurd. Art is not some sort of race to the finish line. Everyone improves at different rates, and not everyone is on some grind set and pursuing a professional career. If you just make art for fun, why does everyone get so offended that you're drawing because it's a hobby and you're not trying to find the most efficient way to improve? When you sit down to play a game for fun, should everyone assume that you're trying to get into some esports league and start harassing you for not being extremely good? Or should they just leave you alone and let you enjoy the game in peace? Stop pretending like you need to be the best of the best at casual hobbies for it to not be a waste of time or to simply enjoy doing it. I know my art isn't perfect. I know there are about a million ways that I can improve. But does that mean I have to take your advice? Absolutely not. I also had a ton of people saying that I didn't improve at all, that my art regressed, like dumb stuff like that. And even though those comments are obviously stupid and untrue, it's still worth mentioning them, just because I see those types of comments a lot on videos like the one I made. It's just another common insult used to tear artists down that really does not have any truth to it at all. Because people love to hate on artists that take pride in their work, especially on videos showcasing improvement. Everyone loves to throw around the term art regression just because your art is stylized and they hate how it looks. If someone shifts from one style to another, like only drawing realism to then only drawing cartoons, that's something that they would label as art regression. And it just makes no sense, because you still have those technical skills, you've just applied it to a different style of art. There's no regression involved. That's why comments like that are just so annoying and such a bane on the art community, because why are you ripping an artist to pieces literally just because you don't like their art? Getting mad at artists for not catering to what you think good art looks like is crazy. And I'm not gonna sit here and try to prove my worth as an artist to a bunch of haters that will never be satisfied anyway. Again, I mentioned it earlier, but a lot of people seem to really hate stylized art and think that the only valid style is realism. I had people telling me that, like, my proportions were bad and that I needed to draw better anatomy, and just finding every rude way under the sun to tell me that I should make my art more realistic. I don't know why it's so hard for people to comprehend that you don't have to draw realism for your art to be good. But anything that isn't realism or that doesn't conform to their small-minded way of how art should look is going to get bashed and made fun of for simply existing. And I mean, genuinely, what did those people expect to happen by saying all of that to me? Like, oh my gosh, I got a comment telling me to never draw again, I guess I have to listen to them. Bye guys, sorry, I can't make art anymore because user number 300 with a private account told me to stop. Oh no, someone else said they don't like my art, what am I gonna do? I guess I'll just never post it again. Like, wow, you succeeded in making me private my account for a day or two and I didn't delete the video. What a shining achievement. Like, if anything, all they did was make me more adamant about continuing to draw and post it just because it makes them mad that my art exists. And if I can irritate a troll right back by doing something that simple and something completely harmless that I enjoy, of course I'm gonna take the opportunity. Ultimately, those comments are garbage and don't mean anything. It's just a way for people who have no lives to have something to do. But the huge amount of those comments, and the normalization of them in the first place, is what makes me so angry. It's the most frustrating part of this entire situation. If I wasn't confident enough in my art now to just ignore those people and not care what they think, then I probably would have just stopped posting and given up. And I feel so horrible for all the other artists that this has happened to and continues to happen to. The constant bullying and harassment within the art community, even from other artists themselves, really needs to stop. Like, I'm not new on the internet. I know this is a thing people have been doing for a long time, but I feel like it has gotten exponentially worse these past few years. And I completely understand why so many artists end up just leaving the internet entirely or having to turn off their comment sections because people literally will not leave them alone. No one should be having people sent on a witch hunt after them just because they think that your art looks bad. No one should receive the level of bullying and harassment that me and many other artists have, especially after doing literally nothing wrong. The overwhelming hatred that some people have for artists just minding their own business is appalling. Fellow artists, how would you have handled this situation? What are your experiences with hate comments? If you ever find yourself in a similar situation, however you decide to handle it, above all, I encourage you to not give up on your art and to keep making it regardless of what some miserable people like that think. You don't deserve to let some cowards hiding behind their screens have power over you and make you stop enjoying your hobbies. As terrible of an experience as it was, I deeply appreciate everyone who sent kind words my way and gave me support. It definitely made me feel a lot less insane. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.